All right.
Okay. Hello, my name is Kate. I'm from dailytarotgirl.com, and today I'm going to be talking to Dr. Cara Gubbins. Cara is a spiritual intuitive, an animal intuitive, and a pet medium. Cara and her research have been featured on CNN, the BBC, the Discovery Channel, and National Geographic specials. And Cara has been helping people connect with their intuition for several years now. So, Cara, I'm so excited to be able to speak with you today and to be able to ask you all kinds of awesome questions about intuition because intuition is something that I started to get into intuition a few years ago, and it's one of those things that I still feel like there's a lot that I don't know about intuition, and there's a lot that I really want to learn about connecting to my own intuition. And I think that there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions about this and have tried to connect to their intuition and have difficulties. So I'm really excited to speak with you today about that.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, Kate. It's always fun to talk to you.
So I guess my first question is, do you believe that there's like a difference between intuition and the word, psychic? Like, do you think those are two totally different things, or do you think they're kind of one and the same thing?
I think to me it can be semantics, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think that they're very, very similar. And in fact, like I call myself an intuitive, but I do the exactly same thing as my teacher who calls herself a psychic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a personal preference. I tend to think of intuition in our daily lives as not being so much psychic, which is really getting information from a specific source using only your intuition and really, really narrowing it down.
Mm-hmm.
But our intuition in our daily life is so much more just paying attention to our body and feeling what's present in our body and being able to ask the questions and have the awareness and find the guidance because our intuition can come to us from a line in a book, it could come from a synchronicity, it could come from a feeling in our gut.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, you know, psychic and intuition, they can be used interchangeably. For me, intuition is just slightly more natural, organic, what we've all got. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
psychic is more trained, developed, on purpose, professional is the way I would kind of discriminate between the two words.
Right, right. Okay, thank you. So how exactly would you define intuition and how it works in our lives?
So I really see intuition as our natural guidance system.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, intuition is all about energy. So we are energetic beings. I always say we've got 5 levels of our being. They're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and energetic.
Mm-hmm.
And our energy body is interwoven. All those levels are interwoven, and our energy body is interwoven with our physical body and it extends beyond us. And our energy body is always interacting with other energy bodies out there, with the energy of the space around us. And, whoa, I just spaced out on what the question was because I got so into
It's a good sign.
it. So intuition is energy in a lot of ways. It's really it's using our natural senses that we use to get information in kind of the traditional standard ways from our environment, sight, sound, touch, and all that kind of stuff. But it's doing it on the energetic level. So it's getting information from the energy around us, and then we're aware of it through our natural senses.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. Yeah. And so you said earlier that, you can sense intuition, through your body or through something that you read. Is there like one primary way that you feel most people experience intuition? Like I know myself, I experience it like physically a lot. But is there like one way that most people experience intuition very strongly?
I don't think there's one dominant way. There's the standard clairs,
Hmm.
clairaudient as you hear things, clairvoyant as you see things, clairsentient as you feel things.
Okay.
So those are the primary ways that people feel things. And I think each one of us has all of those abilities, but individually, I would say we're spread out. If you
Hmm.
picked a population, about a third would be clairvoyant, about a third would be clairaudient, and about a third would be clairsentient. I don't think there's a dominant because it's really how our bodies are wired. But each one of us probably has one of those channels that's our most natural, easiest way to get intuitive information.
Right, okay. And I put a question out on my Facebook page. I said I was going to be interviewing you and I wanted to know if anyone had any questions about intuition. And I got some really great questions. One of them
Yeah.
was, um, uh, oh, can't find it now. Well, uh, yeah, I don't have it written down, but the question was, how can you differentiate between your intuition and maybe your fear or your ego? Like, how can you tell the difference between sort of your own messiness and whatever's coming into your head and your
Mhm.
actual intuition?
It's a great question. And I think this is something when we're starting to really listen to our intuition and starting to focus and use our intuition, this is probably one of the biggest challenges that we all face, all of us, including me. How do I know the difference? And to me, there's some real hallmarks of what's intuition and what comes from ego. And ego can be either a fear or a dread, or it can be wanting something to be true, like,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
thinking, oh, that's my intuition, but I don't know because I wanted that answer. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So it can be hard to tell either good or bad. Um, the things that I look for intuition are number one, it's neutral. So there's no judgment. There's no I'm better than you, I'm worse than you, you're bad. It's just like it feels like information.
Hmm.
And it makes I was going to say it makes sense, but oftentimes it doesn't make sense when you get it.
Hmm.
And it's only later that it makes sense. And that's one of the reasons I really encourage people to track their intuition. Because even if it doesn't make sense now, if you follow it, you're going to go, oh, now I get it.
Hmm.
I see.
Yeah.
So intuition also can be really fast. Like it can come to you, that information can come to you super, super quickly, and there can be a lot of information there. So you can just get a hit,
Hmm.
and it's like boom, right there all the way, and it takes way longer to explain it than it does to actually get the information. And to me, the number one thing is that intuition is always loving. It's always not positive, like, oh, it's all good, girls just want to have fun, but
Yeah.
it's positive, it's loving, it's not cutting anybody down, it's not hurting anybody, and it's moving you in a positive direction.
Okay.
And it feels good.
Hmm.
Your body should feel light and clear and
Hmm.
open when you
Hmm.
get intuitive information. And it's kind of the opposite for when we're overthinking or when it's our ego
Hmm.
that's giving us the information. So generally, there's some kind of physical constriction in the body when it comes from ego,
Hmm.
and it can be constriction like "Yay, I'm so great,"
Hmm.
or it can be like "You're wrong and I'm right."
Right.
Um, and there can be a heaviness.
Hmm.
Ego information always makes logical sense.
Hmm.
It's logical. It's the
Yeah.
left brain. It's logical.
Yeah.
So if you can explain it logically, it doesn't mean it's not intuitive, but it's a pretty good indication that that's coming from your ego.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to think of, I think there's one other hallmark that I like for the ego, but I'm not thinking of it right now. But the
Okay.
heavy, the certainty, the logic is
Yes.
coming from ego.
Yeah.
And and even if you're asking a question like, should I do this or do that, take this job or that job, what you want to have happen can also be your intuitive answer,
Hmm.
right? So
Right.
if you feel good inside about it, if you have that light, airy feeling,
Hmm.
then that's probably intuition and logic, right?
Right. Right.
and
Yes.
what you want.
So, one question I have is that a lot of the times when I want to consult my intuition, it's when I'm feeling really conflicted about something, or I'm, upset about something, or I'm really excited about something and I want something to happen. So I'm in that state of feeling really emotionally charged up. And then I'll try to connect with my intuition to, figure out what I'm supposed to do or whatever. And I find it's like nearly impossible to do that. So I'm just wondering if you have any sort of tips for people how they can tap into their intuition when, during those times like that.
Yeah, yeah. And And that's the challenge that all of us have, and that's why psychics have psychic friends, so they can go to them
Mhm.
when it's a really big important thing, because we can't get information for ourselves when we're super invested in it.
Yes.
And so that's why I say that for intuition, the number one thing is neutrality.
Hmm.
So when you're emotionally invested in the outcome, or the stakes are really high, or you're really wound up about it, it's really hard to come from a neutral place.
Hmm.
And so the key is really to have a system that works for you, that gets you out of your head and gets you feeling more calm and more neutral. And so I have like a two-step process for that I do with people. And that is to start by just closing your eyes. So I'll walk you through it, okay, Kate?
Okay, you want me to close my eyes?
Yeah, go ahead,
Okay.
close your
Okay.
eyes. And I want you to bring your awareness to the weight of your body on the chair that you're sitting on.
Okay.
And now feel your feet heavy on the floor. And feel how that gravity is really holding you down and connecting you to the earth. And if you want, you can even visualize that you have a long, heavy tail holding you onto the ground, or that you have roots growing out of your feet or out of the base of your spine, going all the way down into the earth and just really connecting you to the planet. And then just take a couple breaths there. And as you feel that connection and that calm, then bring your awareness to the center of your chest, to your fourth chakra, your heart center. And it's going to sound kind of funky probably, but as you breathe in, visualize the energy coming in with your breath coming into your chest. And then as you exhale, instead of it coming back up out your mouth, see that energy spreading out from your heart center in all directions. So you're breathing in energy to your heart and you're exhaling energy out. Just really focusing on being in that fourth chakra, being in your heart, and feeling that great feeling of that lightness through your body. And then if you take a couple breaths like that, usually you get to a very clear, calm place where you're not all wound up, you're not really attached, you're just coming from a place of what's for my highest good, what's the best thing for me to do. And so now would be the time to ask your question and just be aware of anything that comes to you. It could be a feeling in your body, it could be an image in your mind's eye, it could be words, it could be a song, it could be really anything that comes to you that's information about your question.
Wow. And can I open my eyes now?
Yeah, now you can
Okay.
open your eyes.
That was wonderful. Yeah, I really felt that in my chest and then in the rest of my body, and it made me wonder, like you always hear people say, talk about your gut instinct, and I've heard people say that, your stomach is the seat of intuition, but then I've heard people say that your heart is the center of intuition. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that. If there's, it, what do you feel like the heart is more kind of where we get our intuition from?
I don't. I feel like our whole bodies are like these
Mhm.
tuning forks for energy.
Yes.
And it can. I'm gonna close my door because my dogs are
Okay,
listening.
sure.
I just
Okay.
want to. They sound like two elephant seals fighting. They kind of. But so in terms of where the seat of our intuition is, I would really say our whole body. I know some people who their inner yes is a feeling on the right side of their body. Their inner no is a feeling on the whole left side of their body.
Right.
When I teach intuition development classes, I actually have a process where people can learn how to go to the center of their head to get neutrality. And it's a really reliable way to, and we do all these things too. We do a grounding, we do a centering,
Yeah.
we go to the center of the head. And I really feel like our whole bodies have access to intuition
Yeah.
and to call one part of our body
Right.
our intuitive place, that it
Yes.
just doesn't fit for me.
Right. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I've heard some people say, that you experience fear in your gut area, and then, real intuition is from your heart, and then your ego is kind of your head, and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for explaining that.
And I mean, I used to teach human anatomy, right, in
Mhm.
college,
Yeah.
and all of those things are all throughout the body. So like when we experience fear, it's coming from our brain and it's affecting every system in our body. It's affecting blood flow, it's affecting heart rate, it's affecting our muscles in our legs and our arms. So I don't think, and maybe I'm just a Taoist at heart, I don't think we can separate out the pieces. I think
Mhm.
we're all completely interconnected.
Yeah.
And all of our body parts and all of our cells and all of our energy has intelligence and has
Mhm.
intuitive ability.
Yeah, I think we're so used to compartmentalizing things and, putting them in boxes. So I think I
Right.
think that's why
Yeah,
some of us look at things that way.
yeah.
Um, so another question I had is, can someone who has never experienced intuition, or, don't consider themselves intuitive, can they all of a sudden have like a really powerful intuitive experience?
Yeah. I hear that all the time. And, I do a lot of like booths at home and garden shows and psychic fairs and stuff like that. So I get a lot of people coming up and talking to me. And I have so many people who come to me and they say, I'm not intuitive, I'm not psychic, but this thing happened when I was at my friend's house.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so I think we all have it. All that stuff is happening around us, and sometimes it's below our level of awareness. We
Hmm.
just don't have the paradigm to recognize it. It's like I'll see it when I believe it.
Hmm.
You have to have the awareness of it to really recognize it, unless it's so dramatic that it makes itself known even when we're not being aware of it.
Right.
So I think that that's also semantics. That like somebody who says I'm not intuitive, but this thing happened, you are intuitive because you're human. It's part of us. It's
Mhm.
just the way we're built. We're all
My
intuitive.
next question, you said an interesting thing that everyone, like we're all intuitive to one degree or another, and that's something that I've always believed. I believe that we're all born intuitive, and I feel that our childhoods, how we're raised, the school system. I feel like it, especially the school system. I think, not to attack education, but I feel like it often sort of almost all those things kind of conspire to block our intuition and to teach us
Yeah.
to not listen to it. Um, so I think that, as adults, that's kind of one of our things that so many of us are focusing on is kind of relearning how to hear the voice of our intuition and how to, find the courage to trust it and act on it. But what would you say are the main, like, what act as main blocks to intuition right now?
Number one is just awareness.
Hmm.
I think just being aware of it, I think starting with recognizing all the different ways intuition can come to you
Okay.
is a great place to just start with your awareness. And then the next level of awareness is to do a little exploration of what's your easiest way to get information intuitively. And I actually have a free gift on my website for people that want to do just that. It's 11 ways to access your intuition and a guided meditation to help you find your natural way of getting intuition.
Okay.
So that to me is a place to start.
I'll put
And
those links to that in, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put it in the about section of the video. If you're watching it on my blog, it will just be below the video if you're interested in accessing those.
thanks, Kate.
Okay.
And so then from there, I think a lot of us have blocks. A lot of us have taken on conditioning from some person in authority earlier in our lives that said, you're making stuff up,
Hmm.
or stop imagining things, or that's not really real, or you can't do that.
Yeah.
And I know for me, becoming a professional intuitive was as much about the training and learning the tools and the skills, which are super practical. I mean, it's just crazy. I had no idea that you could really use very grounded practical tools to develop your intuition. I thought you were born with it or not back before I started this. But also, my untraining was super important for me because I personally had a belief that nobody believes me.
Hmm.
and I have to prove everything and I have to have everything corroborated.
Mhm.
And so for me, recognizing that, because it was completely unconscious, but it was completely holding me back. So recognizing that and realizing, well, that's just crazy because I'm not a liar. I'm really believable. I really
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
and I trust myself. And so I cleared that block. And then it was like, poof,
Mhm.
everything just opened up for me.
Right.
So for me, it's the combination of having the tools that are really reliable and the cumulative effect of the training and the tracking,
Mhm.
paying attention to it, and also just the whatever that would be, the psychological side of it, of letting go, recognizing and letting go of blocks, and really being around other people who also, and I don't want to say believe in intuition because it's not a belief, it is, it's
Mhm.
provable, it's measurable, it's all those things. But being around people who are also using their intuition and developing their intuition and they have that in their language and
Mhm.
in their lives is a great way to develop it as well.
Mhm. Do you feel like there is more acceptance now towards um, people that are intuitive and like tapping into your intuition? Like it seems like even back when I first started studying this stuff, which was not that long ago, like a few years ago, um, I felt like a lot of people thought it was a little bit woo-woo and a little bit weird. And now I don't know if it's just because now I'm immersed, in a community of people that
Uh,
believe in this stuff, but it seems like people are more accepting of this kind of stuff now. So have you noticed that? Have you noticed a shift?
I have totally.
Mhm.
When I was growing up, there were no psychics on TV. It was just like crazy. Like,
Mhm.
you would never put that on. And then, like, Sylvia Brown was one of the first ones who would come on the afternoon talk shows. And then I remember when I was in graduate school, John Edward, who's a psychic medium, he started being on TV.
Mhm.
And it was still kind of this weird, not common thing at that time. And this is, 15 years ago. And now, we have, Long Island Medium and the Medium next door, and there's so much in the popular culture
Right.
that we have access to it that it's becoming part of our culture and our language.
Mhm.
And so when we have these great role models who are really, really good at it and super developed in their abilities, and it makes it easier for the rest of us to have at least a little bit of ability.
Right, right.
So yeah, I really do think that not only are probably you and I both hanging out with more intuitive people, and so it's just part of our
Yeah.
world, but also I think the non-intuitive world is also getting more open to it and understanding it.
Mhm.
And actually, when I was training to be a scientist, that was one of my favorite things when I got into college and graduate school was learning about the scientists who made the big discoveries, the big leaps.
Yeah.
They would see things in dreams, like the
Hmm,
double
yes.
helix of DNA, they saw it in a dream, and carbon rings. So
Mhm.
anything with six carbons in it is in a ring, and they couldn't figure it out, and they couldn't figure it out. And I can't remember the scientist's name, but he saw six snakes in a
Yes.
circle, and he was like, boom.
Yep.
And I was so fascinated by how intuition is so much a part of our lives.
Yeah.
And I think all of those things together, the more people talk about it in other areas and how they use their intuition,
Yeah.
the more it just becomes part of everyday life.
So would you say dreams are another powerful way that our intuition can speak to us? Mhm.
Definitely. Definitely. I love dream analysis.
Yeah.
And in my training, so I have a master's degree in spiritual psychology.
Yeah.
And I spent an extra year studying consciousness, health, and healing. So, looking at the interplay between the brain and the emotions and your health. And one of the things that we did is we tracked our dreams for an entire year. And
Yeah.
I have a journal where I wrote every night.
Yeah.
And we did this great thing. This is the part I want to share about it is we had bedtime intentions.
Yeah.
And so we would have a notebook next to our bed, and my intention is to get clarity about my job.
Mhm.
So I'd write that down. And then when I wake up in the morning, I write down any dreams or any pieces of dreams that I remember. And it is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I would get really specific answers about stuff,
Really?
really specific. And sometimes it would be super confusing and it would take a while.
Yeah.
But also, I think analyzing dreams is also very intuitive.
Yeah.
And so I don't ever go to a reference book where, a house means X and a
Right.
street means Y
Yeah.
and, cookie cutter like that.
Hmm.
But looking at the patterns and what it means to you and how you would explain it,
Right.
yeah, I think we can consciously use our dreams to get intuitive information about specific
Yes.
problems or challenges or situations that we're facing. And that to me is super exciting.
Yeah.
Anytime we can use intuition on
So
purpose,
I
I'm
want
like,
to hear a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit more about the you have an I know you have an upcoming class that you're teaching about intuition, so I'm just curious, what kinds of things you learn, and if you could just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. So this class is starting on April 14th,
Hmm.
a couple of weeks from now, whenever. And it's 6 weeks. And each week you get a new tool. So we go through grounding, running your energy, neutrality. I'm spacing out on the other ones, but there's six of them. So the first five are really what I call the keys to turning on your intuition. If you go through these five as a daily routine, you're automatically up leveling your intuitive ability.
Hmm.
And we talked about when you get into those challenging situations when you're not all woo and fine
Yeah.
and receiving from the universe, but you really need to.
Yeah.
So if you go through those five steps, you automatically turn on, and then your intuition becomes like a tool that's reliable,
Hmm.
like a toaster. You turn it on and it's there and it toasts, and
Yes.
you turn it off and it's not there and you're not toasting. So, and then the sixth tool that I teach is how to manage the energy around you. So using an energetic tool to manage the energy around you. The first five are about managing your energy to become more intuitive. And then you finally get the ability to now go out into the world and impact the world energetically and do things with that tool.
Yeah.
So it's online. You get the lessons delivered to you in your inbox if you want. I also have a weekly Q&A where I'll go through the steps for that week with you, and we'll talk about all the ins and outs and challenges and all that kind of stuff. And I'm offering a super. I have a whole bunch of bonuses too. I can't think of what my bonuses are now, but because I'm so crazy about you and what you do, and I figure anybody hanging out with you is super cool too. If they like what you're up to, then that would be cool. So what I've decided to do is offer a $50 discount on the class to
Nice.
your people in your community. So
Yeah.
normally it's $247 for the 6 weeks, and for you guys it's $197.
Nice.
And to sign up for that, you can go to my website, caragubbins.com/opening to intuition daily tarot girl, and that's all crammed together in one word.
Hmm.
And I have some other bonuses there too, and an audio meditation, and a couple of ebooks, and a cheat sheet for the tools, and
Yeah.
a few other things. I'm always throwing bonuses in
Nice.
all over the place, and I'm
Yeah.
always making personalized guided meditations for people. So if I talk too fast, or
Hmm.
a lot of my students are. If you're clairsentient, I use different words for you
Hmm.
when I do the audio meditation than I do for somebody who's clairvoyant. So I love to personalize for people so it really works with their natural way of learning and enhances what they are already doing naturally so it
Okay.
becomes stronger and easier and more on demand.
Okay, I didn't know you did that. That's awesome because I find, when I've read books and stuff on intuition, it can take a while to figure out, how you access your intuition. And I think if I knew right off the bat and was able to kind of um, tailor my studies to kind of fit that, that would have made a huge difference. So that's awesome that you do that in your class.
Thanks. And for somebody like you, I think a lot of intuitive development classes and a lot of psychics and intuitives are tend to be more visual
Hmm. Yeah,
people. So they
yeah.
tend to give their instructions in visual terms. And for somebody
Yes.
like you who's clairsentient, it's just not going to work the same way. So you kind of have to have different guidance so that you
Hmm.
can tune into your natural channels.
That's awesome. So does anyone need, if someone wants to take your course, do they need, experience doing this kind of thing, or have you set this up for total
No, this
beginners?
is total beginners. And it's super interesting, Kate, because you don't have to have any experience
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Mhm.
But I just got a email from one of my students in France who took the class with me over December and January, and she said, you know, I needed something, but I always thought intuition was too woo woo. And she's like, you made it so practical and so easy, and I use it in my daily life. I use it for my business. I went from nothing to really relying on my intuition
Mhm.
just with that 6 week class. So you
Yeah.
can be a total rank beginner and not have a woo woo bone in your body
Yeah.
and do fine.
Yeah.
And I also have students who've studied other places, but they haven't learned these particular tools.
Right.
And so they come to me with more experience. And these tools, to me, they're so foundational, they're so powerful, they're so effective. Even if you already have been using your intuition,
Mhm.
these will enhance whatever you've already got going on for you.
Right, right. Awesome. And so I have another question that's kind of weird. But
I
what
love weird questions.
I've noticed like any book I read on intuition, it's like, you got to meditate, you got to get quiet. What if you really hate meditation and you hate sitting there and getting quiet and you just want to do something that's more active and interesting? Is there any way that
Oh,
you can connect to your intuition without meditation?
no, you have to sit down and you have to meditate.
No.
Force yourself. Yeah, there's so many ways to really to do the same thing, right? Meditation really what it does is it clears your head, it gives you a clean slate inside, and it ups your awareness. So anything coming in, you're aware of it.
Right.
And that's what the tools do that I teach.
Yeah.
So, you can use these tools and never meditate and still be more intuitive because you have these tools.
Right.
But you can also, there's a whole bunch of things you can do in your daily life that naturally make you more intuitive. They naturally boost your intuition.
Yeah.
Being out in nature, getting exercise, especially anything rhythmic, dancing or
Mhm.
running or hiking or
Yeah.
anything like that that kind of clears your head. And, you know, our logical brain is our left brain. And so when
Mhm.
we're doing logical things like math and whatever sequences and figuring stuff out and categorizing stuff, that's left brain. And anything that develops your right brain or that uses your right brain automatically turns on your intuition. So being in nature, laughing, doodling, drawing, dancing.
Yeah.
If you'd rather do one of those things than sit down and meditate, then do that.
I'm glad you said that. I just did a an art class and we did Zentangles. I don't know if you know what
Oh,
Zentangles are, but it's
no.
basically just doodling and you doodle kind of like intricate repetitive designs and it's the process is very meditative. Like you just kind of space out and but it's really wonderful. And so I found that that has been something that has helped me connect with my intuition as well as like running and swimming, like you say those kind of
Yeah.
repetitive things but also driving. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I think that maybe it's because when I'm driving, my logical kind of rational brain is occupied with driving, but then there's this other part of my brain that's just kind of doing other things. It's really
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah, it's so funny. I forgot about that, but I get that too on long drives where it's just me in the car
Yeah.
and I can just have all kinds of thoughts. And my lab dogs, they didn't get to go hiking this morning. That's our morning routine.
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
where to me, it's like, God, it does so many things. Number one, it gives me exercise. Number two, it just gets me outside away from the computer.
Mhm.
And then I started to realize how much of my business gets organized while I'm hiking because I'm able to come at things intuitively and make connections and come up with new ideas. And to me, it's like an investment in my business to take an hour hike every day because it turns my intuition on about stuff that if I was sitting here at my desk in front of my computer, I wouldn't be thinking the same way and
Right.
I wouldn't be making those connections.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
just start to notice when that happens in your life. And if you want to develop your intuition, do it more.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
do it and then ask your intuitive question,
Right.
right? So have that be your tool to get into that frame of mind.
Mhm. Mhm.
And like for me, I've really focused for several years on developing my intuitive ability in my daily life.
Right.
So for me, I can really quickly check in because I've kind of, it's like riding a bike. I had to think
Right.
about it a lot at first and less and less and less.
Yeah.
But I don't do a reading without going through my tools, and I
Mhm.
use the exact same tools I teach in the class, and I always do that. And if I have a question like for my family or a challenge for myself,
Mhm.
I do it even longer. I
Right.
do whatever it is to get into that state. I'll go for a hike, I'll meditate, I'll run my energy, I'll use my energy tools,
Mhm.
and I'll do it for even longer. The higher the stakes, the more prep time before I ask the question.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much, Cara, for being with us today and for answering all my questions. I feel like I
Joy.
have a whole bunch of new tips and things to try. I'm going to try that dream thing that you said about, setting an intention before you go to sleep. I think that's an awesome tip. So I just want to say thank you so much. And for anyone who would like to learn more about Kara's intuition course, I will put the link in the about section of this video if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're on my blog, it will just be posted right below the video. So thank you so much again, Kara, for coming on here and sharing all that you know with us.
You're so welcome, Kate. It's always a pleasure.
Bye bye.
Bye.